Hey everyone, and welcome back to Flat Out. Today I thought I'd make a list of 5 extremely fun cars you can have for under $10,000. So let's start with number 1 on our list. Now, I gotta be honest, I'm someone who goes with there's a Mustang for every budget, and there's a Mustang for every list. So we're gonna start things off with the S197 Mustang GT. The S197 has been made from 2005 all the way up to 2014. So there's various different trims and models that have come out through the years. But for this list, we're going to focus on the earlier GT models. Now, the S197 Mustang can either be had in a 5-speed manual or an automatic. These cars have about 300 to 315 horsepower, depending which year you get, and they have about 320 or 325 foot-pounds of torque. Now, these are the 4.6-liter motors, so, fairly bulletproof motors, but please do your own research before purchasing any of these cars on this list. Now, in terms of power with this car, you're going to reach the roof or the limit of the horsepower NA very quickly. So for what I would recommend doing to one of these cars, if you really want to up the power and, the 300 to 315 horsepower isn't quite enough for you, you could either get a good Helion single turbo kit, which would bump up your horsepower to about 500, and I mean there's different ranges in the different kits you can get, or you could pro charge these cars and have sort of 400 450 horsepower, and that's a good amount of power for a live rear axle car like this. In terms of visual mods, wheels, interior stuff, there's crazy amounts of mods for these cars. There are tons. You can just go to LMR or American Muscle and you'll find tons and tons of parts for these cars. So there's definitely no shortage on personalizing and making this car your own. Definitely one of the first mods I would recommend doing to this car is to put a new exhaust on it and really just open it up and, let it have a much nicer sound. The stock exhausts leave a lot to be desired. For number 2 on this list, we have the Nissan 350Z or Z, however you want to say it. Now, this car has a 3.5-liter V6, which has anywhere between 287 and 306 horsepower, and about 260 foot-pounds of torque. Now, this car can be had with a 6-speed manual transmission or an auto. Now, when it comes to 350Zs, it is actually a really good choice of a 2-seater sports car because they made tons of them. And on top of that, there are so many different trims and colors. You can have coupe, you can have a convertible. There's just so much you can also do modification-wise on these platforms. Now, when it comes to modification, there are lots of aftermarket parts, pieces, modifications, everything for this car. And again, if you want to go with a NA build, more of a body kit and that, easy. You want to boost the car, easy. There's tons of aftermarket support on this. Besides that, it is a really good platform, and I mean, all those YouTubers that bought them for drifting can't be wrong. Personally, I'm a big fan of the 350Z, especially when I watched Tokyo Drift and saw the car in there. It really sort of cemented that car and model in my mind. These cars were made from about 2002 to 2009. And in the US, you can actually find them pretty commonly. This is not going to be a hard car for you to find, especially under $10,000. Number 3 on our list will actually be the Mark V Golf. Now, I'm going to choose 2 different trims of this car for this list because both of them you should be able to find for under 10,000. One's a little harder than the other, but either way, you can definitely find both for under 10,000. The first trim model and option for this is the Mark V Golf GTI. This has a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4, and it makes about 197, basically 200 horsepower. Now, this car has either a DSG gearbox or you can get the 6-speed manual. It is front-wheel drive, definitely a lot of fun as a hot hatch. But now the other trim you can get is the R32. Now the R32 comes with a 3.2-liter V6. And this has about 250 horsepower and all-wheel drive. For the Mark V generation though, the R32 only comes with the DSG gearbox. You can't get a 6-speed. Both of these cars have good modification or tuning elements to them. However, I would definitely say if you want to tune one more, I would say the GTI has a little more on it, especially being that it's already turbos. You can do more with intercoolers, blow-off valves, bigger turbo kit, all that sort of stuff. Now, you can definitely boost the R32. However, that's going to be a little more expensive and definitely a bit harder to find parts for the R32 compared to the GTI. GDI, I think you have a lot more parts and options for it, and you can make, in my opinion, I think it'd be cheaper horsepower. And what I mean by that is for less money, you could get more horsepower out of the GTI than the R32. Plus, the GTI comes in a 6-speed manual, which I'm a big fan of. If you definitely want something that's fun, practical, and pretty quick, I would say look no further than a Mark V Golf, and you can take them just about anywhere. Bear in mind the modification potential for these and the amount of modifications out there isn't as much as the Mustang GT or the 350Z that we covered earlier in this list. This will definitely be a little less modification wise compared to those two cars because they just have tons, but there are modifications out there. Number 4 for our list is going to be the BRZ, GT86, and FRS. They're basically all the same car, same chassis, same motor. The only difference is the outside appearance and the interior. And even that is very minor. But let's get into it. The engine is a 2-liter boxer motor that Toyota and Subaru, or Subaru, however you want to say it, created together. This motor has 200 horsepower, or 197, but we're going to round up. Now, these things are just drift machines. They are so easy to slide, and that's due to the tires which they actually share with a Toyota Prius. These small, cheap eco tires make it very easy to drift the car around, and they're also really easy and cheap to replace, which is always a big plus if you want to slide the car around and have some fun, which this list is all about. Now, along with the 200 horsepower, these cars either come with a 6-speed manual or an automatic. Now, these cars have such good tuning potential, it's not even funny. There's loads of aftermarket support for these cars, whether it's body kits, boosting it, and trust me, with the 200 horsepower, you're going to have some fun for the first few months, but after that, you're going to really consider boosting the car. And, you know, there's tons of support. You like a supercharger whine? You can have a supercharger. Like a turbo blow-off sound? You can add a turbo. You want a pro charger? You can have a pro charger. You can have so many different boosting options with this car. It's insane. And now I do know, even when you boost these cars, you're going to be pushing sort of the same horsepower as the Mustang GT and the 350Z stock that we discussed earlier in this video. But that's not the point of this car. This car wasn't designed to be fast. It was designed to be fun. And I mean, you know what? It really is. Front engine, rear wheel drive. My opinion, I'd get the manual transmission. I mean, the fun to be had there is just unlimited. Plus, with the potential of wide body kits, turbo mods, and everything else, you really just have such a perfect platform to build upon. And on top of that, it's a fairly modern car compared to the other cars we're talking about. These even have Bluetooth. Some models even have GPS, depending on which trim you get. So you get a lot of creature comforts with these cars on top of them being fun platforms. Along with the 2-liter, you also get pretty decent economy, which I know exciting and fun cars isn't really something I ever look at. But, you know, a lot of people usually ask about that sort of stuff, and this car has it. And this car, it supports 24 miles per gallon combined. And I mean, if this is also going to be your daily, it's a pretty good choice for a daily. Now, number 5, and finally for our list, we have the BMW E92 335i. This car has a motor called the N54, and this is praised now as the German 2JZ just because it's so easy to get power out of it. It is a twin-turbo, inline-6, 3-liter. And this thing stock has about 306 horsepower, but with some basic bolt-ons and honestly about $1,500 to $2,000, you could pretty much make this thing a 500 horsepower machine. And the potential can just go up from there. The more money you have, the more power you can make, and these cars are great platforms. Now, again, there's tons of aftermarket support for these. These are probably one of the most modified BMWs you can buy. And with good reason too, just because the horsepower and performance you get out of these cars for the money is almost second to none. Now, you can have these cars in either a 6-speed manual transmission or an automatic. And these cars, I believe, were made from 2006 to 2010. And yeah, these things sound really good with an exhaust. Now, I will be the first to admit, I don't think the reliability on these cars is probably the highest. But again, like all these cars, do your own research and definitely, be smart with your purchases. If you ever speak to someone who owns one of these cars, they'll be the first to admit that these cars are some of the most fun for the money they've paid. And I mean, that's a fact. I mean, you think about the horsepower you get with them, the modding potential. It is a front engine, rear wheel drive car. I mean, BMWs are known as driver cars, especially some of these higher end ones. Plus, they're like half the price of an M3 that's also an E92. So, pick your poison. And I just want to make clear, this is no financial advice or definitely what you should be looking at as your next car. These are 5 cars I would basically look at and buy, if my money was on the line. Let me know if you guys would like to see a Canadian list with what you can get for 10,000 Canadian dollars in Canada. But yeah, that is our list. And if you like this list, please like, subscribe, and comment for more. I really appreciate your feedback, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.